Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode is a topic I know absolutely nothing about. And those are actually my favorite episodes because I get to learn with you, the listener, and hopefully pick up a few tricks. We have an awesome guest today, John Horn. We're going to talk about how to grow your business with Google Ads. John, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Brandon, thank you so much for having me.
So I hope you don't know nothing about Google Ads as well, but I don't think you would be here if that was the case. So tell me, give me the Google Ads 101 before we dive in here. What do we absolutely need to know or keep in mind for this conversation?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing, if you're a business that's considering using Google Ads or even is using Google Ads, is separate from, before we get into all the weeds of, campaigns to run and stuff like that, is what does success look like to you? And this is true for any advertising campaign, marketing strategy you're going to run, and true in the Google Ads side of things, which is, all right, so what numbers do we need to achieve to make this a profitable channel for us? Are we looking for, direct response? Are we looking for leads to come in the door? Are we looking for sales through our website? What type of return on ad spend can we afford? What type of cost per lead can we afford? Things like that. So that before you even spend $1 on Google advertising, you can have a sense for how you're going to measure whether or not what you do is successful. And then also, ideally, when you have some of those expectations in place, you can either do the research yourself or work with somebody like Stub Group who understands the platforms and can tell you, are these expectations that you have realistic? If you come to me like, hey, I need $1 per lead and I'm an HVAC company, selling in a broad area, I'm going to be like, that's never ever going to happen. Like this is not an option with what clicks cost and conversion rates and so forth. Versus if you come to me and say, hey, $400 cost per lead in this particular area, and we run the numbers and say, okay, hey, we might be able to do that. Then that's the important first step for getting into something like Google Ads.
Logically, that makes a ton of sense. In reality, though, I rarely meet business owners, and we're talking of all sizes, that have those numbers in place. I assume you help people through that. How do you start to gather that information with your clients before even talking about what the ads are going to be?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of conversations like that. And obviously it depends too if it's an established business versus a new business. Obviously a new business doesn't have access to that data yet. But for established businesses, we have a lot of conversations about things like lifetime value. Okay, are your customers one-time customers? They purchase one thing and then they're gone? Or are you seeing them be repeat business? If that's the case, great. What's that lifetime value? How often on an average do they come back? And we might even sometimes we'll dig into the numbers with them, or at least kind of point them in the right direction of trying to figure out things like that. And then also taking a look at things like, okay, well, you had X number of leads that came in the door last month. You turned that into X number of clients. Great. That tells us what your conversion rate is. So presumably if we could drive more leads that are of a similar quality as what you've been getting, then we should be able to continue to see roughly these conversion rates, I should say. This is what that cost per lead could look like, that cost per acquisition could look like. And really walk with them through those things. Like you said, rarely do you get to a place of perfection where you know everything and have everything squared away, but at least having some parameters going into advertising, I think, is important.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other question I always hear people talking about, whether it's on podcasts or online, stuff like that, is what platform should you be putting money into? There's Google, there's Facebook. I think every single other platform has their own advertising channels, billboards, newspaper ads, if we want to go retro. First of all, how many of those do you cover? And then also, how do you help your clients figure out which one is going to be right for them?
Yeah, that is a very, very important question. And our specialty is primarily in we call paid search. So Google being by far the top platform, and then platforms like Microsoft, Bing, for example, as well as paid social. So Facebook ads, Instagram ads, so forth. And then we're starting to expand into some other areas as well with our clients. But really, that paid search and paid social is what we've been focused on for a while. And at a very high level, one of the questions that I'll kind of walk businesses through when they're asking us that question is, are people searching for what you sell? So if they're searching for the product you sell, the service that you sell, then they're probably using Google to do a lot of those searches because Google is, the dominant search engine now. And so that gives you the opportunity to say, okay, well, then if someone's searching for what I'm selling, then we probably need to be on Google. And let's talk about what that looks like. Versus there are many businesses where people aren't necessarily searching for what you sell. You could be a clothing brand that is, got a great line of clothing, really cool hoodies and tees, for example. But there's, technically, yes, people do Google, find hoodies or find tees, but you're not probably on the Google side of things going to stand out from everybody that's there. Whereas if you say, okay, these are the types of people that are really interested in my hoodies and tees, I can reach them on Facebook and I can make them aware of my brand and do that visually. Paid social, Facebook, Instagram, etc., is a great place for brands that really need to be described visually through images, through video. YouTube also, which of course falls under the Google umbrella, is great for that as well. So if it's more of a, people are searching for what I have, search engines generally is where I'm going to start. If it's more of I need to make them aware of what I have and make them aware that there's a solution to a problem they maybe didn't realize they had until I told them they had it, then social platforms may be a better place to start.
That makes sense. That's a good little filter. I'm sure it doesn't apply 100% of the time, but it gets us at least started down one of those paths. So keeping that in mind, if you answer that question for yourself as the listener, then John, where do you go with people? So we're talking, this conversation is predominantly about Google.
Yeah.
Where do you go with your clients once we say, okay, I have some metrics. I know what I'm looking for. I know that I should be on Google. Then what? What do we do?
Yep. So usually the first thing that we'll do is we'll do some research, get a sense for what are the popular keywords people are searching on Google that are relevant to the product or service that you're selling. We'll try to get a rough sense for what it's going to cost to run ads. So Google has what they call a pay-per-click model, which just means that you pay Google when someone clicks on your ad. And how much that cost is going to be incredibly different depending upon what industry you're in, because it's ultimately it's an auction. And so what you are willing to pay and what your competitors who are trying to show up at the same time are willing to pay are going to dictate costs. So for example, if you're a personal injury lawyer, those could be some of the most expensive clicks out there. You could spend literally $300-$400 for just someone clicking on your ad, not becoming a lead, just literally clicking on your ad. Because when someone does convert, that's millions and millions of dollars worth of revenue for that lawyer. And so they're willing to spend that. Whereas, if you're selling a $5 toy on Amazon, obviously you can't pay $400 for that click. You could pay maybe 10 cents or 5 or something like that. And so we'll try and get a sense for, okay, what are the cost per clicks, generally speaking, in the for the keywords we're going to target for you, and then kind of put an initial plan in place of, all right, this is the lowest hanging fruit, the types of searches that are most relevant to you. And usually we start with that because if you can't convert that type of traffic on your website, then you're not going to be able to convert higher funnel, colder traffic. So we want to start with what should convert best and see how it performs and see what changes potentially need to be made to the website side of things as well. Creating landing pages, improving processes, changing offers to get the highest possible conversion rate, and then expand from there. Okay, if we tap out that audience, great. Let's move on to other keywords that maybe aren't quite as relevant, but still relevant enough that we should test and see if we can get a good conversion rate, and then kind of work your way up from there. And then eventually you'll often get beyond just, kind of keyword campaigns and into things like YouTube and other, awareness generation campaign types that Google offers.
Yeah, I'm curious about if an ad is converting from the standpoint of clicks, like they're liking that messaging, but if the website's not converting or whatever that next step is not converting, what does that process look like for you to go and help that client say, okay, we need to either rebuild a website or completely change the messaging? How do you tackle that? Because that to me seems like way bigger and much harder of a project than maybe just getting an ad wording correctly.
It's definitely a harder project. You're 100% right. And there's a couple of ways that we go about it. First, to really try to identify that, we spend a lot of time looking at what are people searching when they click our ads to get to the website, and identifying kind of what a benchmark conversion rate should be. And so if we're seeing, hey, people are searching for what you sell, they're clicking your ads, and then they're not buying, then we know the problem isn't that we're getting the wrong audience to the website. The problem is that for whatever reason, they're not finding the website compelling enough to actually, do the purchase, fill out the form, whatever the goal is on that website. And so one thing we'll often do with clients is install software like Microsoft Clarity, which does things like heat mapping and actually recording screen sessions. So we can look and see how real leads, or at least potential leads, are navigating around the website. And we can find friction points. We can see, they're clicking this thing. It looks like a button. It's not a button. They're getting frustrated because it's a weird design element. Or, hey, they're going all over the place looking for this piece of information. You need to put this piece of information, right in front of them, or so forth and so on. And then from there, sometimes we'll help ourselves with doing things like creating landing pages, because often businesses, they'll kind of have this Frankenstein website develop over time where, if you spent 10 minutes, reading through their website, you'll figure things out. But if you are clicking an ad and you are, literally spending 5 seconds to see, am I at the right place before I leave or not? You have to have the right headline. You have to tell them they're in the right place. You have to have credibility elements right away, things like that. And so we'll help create a landing page that has those types of things. And sometimes it's more consultative of, hey, the client's got a design team, web team, awesome, of just giving them ideas, recommendations, and then split testing those things and seeing, do more people engage with this version than that version? If so, awesome. That's a new winner. Let's, move forward, test something else, and constantly try to improve that experience.
Is that stuff you recommend your clients do even before they start working with you, as far as, evaluating the website, the heat map tracking, stuff like that you talked about, so that they can provide that information to you right from the start?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have people coming to your website, then it behooves you to be doing everything possible to convert as many of those people into customers, into leads, into whatever your goal is. And so whether that traffic's coming from ads or Google organic searches or social media or email newsletters, it doesn't matter. You should be looking and seeing, how are people engaging? How can we make that process more seamless? How can we more clearly communicate our offers in a more compelling way, and ultimately get the highest percentage of people taking that action that we want them to take?
Yeah, that makes sense. So as far as the other things that people don't typically think of when we're talking about Google Ads, I think a lot of people have this concept in their minds, and I may be one of these people. You put $1 in and you're supposed to get $4 out, or whatever that metric is for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are all of the other things that you see kind of bite companies in the butt, that maybe they're not considering? Anything from, poor reviews or poor web presence, stuff like that we should be aware of before even considering any sort of paid advertising?
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at advertising as a magic bullet. And if we just, do good ads and throw money at advertising, that's going to fix our business problems. And that's not how it's going to work. I've heard advertising described as fuel. If you have an engine that is not performing well, if your offers are already not hitting with people, you're not seeing things, and then you run ads and get more people there, you're just putting more fuel into an engine that's breaking down, and it will just blow up further and waste you money. Whereas if you've got something that's moving really well, and it's a well-oiled machine and people like what you're offering, and then you just get more people coming by pouring that fuel onto the fire via advertising, then you are going to fuel your sales and fuel growth there. And so it's really important. Some of the things you mentioned there, super important. Your online reputation. A lot of people these days are going to, Google for reviews of you, for example, before they decide to trust you and reach out. And so you can have the best ad in the world, but then if I go and Google, fill in the blank company name reviews, and I see a bunch of 1-star reviews, and you haven't responded to those reviews in a professional manner, explaining why those reviews are there, etc., then I'm probably not going to purchase from you. And that means you're wasting ad spend getting my attention to begin with. So reputation's important. Just having a website that works. the number of times someone will come to us to hire us and we'll be on their website and be like, did you know this link's broken? And like a common one I see often is, it's so simple, but it's devastating, is contact forms that aren't actually sending lead information to anyone. And we've seen this countless times where, and we'll have a conversation with the client, be like, hey, we got you this many forms. And like, no, you didn't. And then we'll dig into things with them like, well, okay, you're not getting the forms because you don't have your email address there, or you have, your web developer's email address there, and he's Denver checks his email or whatever. So some of the most simple things have the biggest impact, I think, on business. And you just gotta do the hard work of the basics of checking things, testing things, looking at things from a customer perspective, and finding those friction points that you can solve.
That's often the hardest thing to do is looking at it from somebody's eyes who doesn't know you, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. I've seen that before. Okay, so that's the horror stories a little bit. I'm curious to hear about maybe a really positive story. What was whether it was a company you've worked with or one that you've seen that had just a really good strategy that included Google Ads, but their overall marketing and brand strategy was just on point and they had incredible success. I'd love to hear from your perspective. What are those tiny little nuances that really made them succeed above what normal success might look like?
Yeah, one client comes to mind. I think they're currently on the Inc. 5000. I can't share their name just to privacy NDA realities, but we've been working with them for a long time. I think since 2016 is actually when we started working with them. And back when we started working with them, they were a relatively small company. The owner of the company was taking sales calls and was our point of contact on the marketing side and so forth. And they've done a fantastic job of what you mentioned, of building a really solid business that has high quality product, which means they then get a great reputation in the industry, great reviews from people trust them. And that has just kind of snowballed over time. And then from the marketing side of things, we've been able to make sure that they're dominant. So when you are searching for the type of product that they sell, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be coming up, and people are able to find them through that. And then as they research them, look for reviews, work through their website, talk to their sales team, they do a great job of actually completing the sale. And like I said, they're now the Inc. 5000, and they've just seen tremendous growth. Their owner is definitely not still on sales calls at this point. They've got sales teams galore, but they've still done a really good job of training their people, of bringing high caliber people on board. So even while they've scaled and tremendously increased, both how much money they're making as well as how much they're spending on the advertising side of things, they still worked really hard to have quality processes and team members on board.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach. You can't build just one part of the business. But what I heard is, if you work with Stub Group, you will guarantee get on the Inc. 5000 list. Did I get that right, John?
Oh boy. Something like that.
Loosely translated. My words, not his. Okay. Full disclosure. John, I appreciate this. This is, like I said in the beginning, it's an area I know nothing about, but keeping all of this in mind, it's really so much more than $1 in, X number of dollars out. It has to be a strategy that you put in place and very calculated if you're going to go down the route of spending money to acquire customers. So please, my advice is reach out to a professional. We have one right here. If someone wants to do that, John, where should they go to reach out to you and work with you?
Our website's the best place, stubgroup.com, and go to stubgroup.com/free for some free resources you can download to give you kind of more info, more ideas in the Google Ads journey.
I love it. Awesome. John, thank you so much for being here and shedding light on this very complex topic of Google Ads.
Thanks so much for having me, Brandon.
For those of you watching and listening, the links are all down below. You can go connect with John. Thank you for listening. We'll see you back on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.